Greetings. My name is Joe Albiani. My partner, Gerry Bowman, and I are known as the Free Will Foundation. The purpose of the Free Will Foundation is to disseminate the ideas of John throughout the world to any who are willing to listen. You will listen to John speak to you tonight through Gerry Bowman. We salute you for being open enough to listen to this tape. John's topic this evening will be participation in life, going from an observer to a participator. A willingness to listen is all that is necessary to learn. There is nothing to believe in here, only to listen and see what value there is in what is being said for you. You will be the sole judge of this. Many of the ideas you hear will be ones you have had yourself or have heard from others. They may be presented in a slightly different manner. Other ideas may be new to you, consciously, but will feel right for you. For most of us, it is beneficial to listen to any of John's tapes several times. Each time presents new ideas, and the tape seems to grow with you. This is because John is speaking to all parts of you, parts that you are not currently aware of. He speaks to all aspects of you, and you will feel this inside. John, talk to us on participation in life.
Thanks. How are you doing? All right. What we'd like to discuss this evening is this quality of life in which we are involved in direct participation with our life. Now, with that statement, perhaps many of you are thinking that you are indeed and in fact in direct participation with your life. But the truth of the matter is that very few people in this planet are in direct participation with their life. They are participating rather in a drama that takes place within the personality. And in that personality, they live their life. And thus, they fail to have the experience of that which is their multidimensional nature, which is here, present, now, in this life. Always. But when we participate as an actor would participate in a play, then what we do is we assume a role. And this, in fact, is what most people do in their daily life. They assume roles. They take up characteristics, as you might term them, and utilize these characteristics and make statements to say that this is what they are and this is what they are not, when in fact these characteristics are tools that you use as a spirit that is manifesting its own form. And in that form you play out your roles, you perform your functions. But in life there is great difficulty in participating directly in the flow of that life, because the individual has a tendency to become victimized by that which is outside of them. The world, your circumstances, the events of life. When one creates an opportunity to participate directly in life, then one sees the way in which they are causing these things, the way in which they are creating these things to be in service to them, to create an opportunity for them to learn, to go beyond this which is the self-imposed limitations of life that you have accepted unto yourself, so as you can have the experience of it, period. For if it is true that spirit is unlimited, then to create an opportunity to experience a limited nature is another expression or way, road, whatever you choose to term it, to go beyond this, to receive this, accept this, and to metamorphosize, to incorporate, as the infant is incorporated by the child, that is incorporated by the adolescent, that is incorporated by the adult. And then ultimately the adult progresses through its metamorphosis into this which is the old individual, to this which is the threshold of transformation you refer to as death. In participating in life, we must allow ourselves the opportunity to be at the center of our creation. But how often are we willing to rest in this spot, to be in the center of our creation, to be willing to be the cause of all that occurs in our life, whether we are in agreement with it or we are not? All of you, of course, are in the center, aren't you? Hello? And being in the center is a place where which you can bear witness to all that you cause and bring about for your edification, yes? If we were to view life as though it was an opportunity for us to see ourselves as an encapsulation of this idea that you call God, then there would be nothing in that life that would bring about fear in you. There would be nothing in that life that you could not ultimately, simply due to your will, bring about a change. And in so doing, you allow yourself to bear witness to what you might term to be your multidimensional nature. Your larger self, your whole self, your soul self, whatever name you choose to put on it. But in order to participate directly in life, we have to assume responsibility for it and for everything that is in it. If we do this, then we become like unto those that we so aspire to be like. For when we see these qualities in other people, then we believe, because if we don't feel them in ourselves, that we must in some way learn how to bring this about, how to create this sense of being within ourselves, because we believe that they have something that we have not. When in fact, spirit is totally equipped, and there is not, as to a degree, in that which you call spirit, levels or degrees, and yet there is, to a sense, an aspect of this reflected in that which is the spirit kingdom. For everything that is in spirit exists here now, in one form or another. But it would require direct participation in life, in each moment, to see it occurring. What is this that occurs in nature? You call it stop action photography, where when an event happens so quickly that the human senses are unable to separate the moments of action and see only a blur of activity, when in fact there are indeed individual instances of creativity and destruction simultaneously. In order for 1 minute to go into the next, what happens to the minute you were just on? What happens to that instant? Is the instant gone, or does the instant exist all the time, simultaneously? And it would be the perceiver who would determine that this moment is different from this moment, is different from this moment, is different from this moment, when in fact they're all the same. There is nothing different about them except for the way in which the perceiver, experiencer, labels it. One moment is past, another moment is here, and there is another moment yet to come. But these are all simultaneous. When you look at your life and the condition of that life, would you say that your actions in it have brought about the conditions in which you experience? Or will you look at these conditions and say that it is someone else, something else, that's bringing this about? What you're more tempted to say to yourself? Someone else? What else? Pardon? Something else. When we do this, where is the power? And why do we invest the power outside? because we have no power inside. And when we give up this power that is our love, that is the authority for us to shape and to mold and to know our own life, then we must become a victim of our circumstances, yes? But at times, we catch ourselves in the act. And we swear that we will never again be used by this person, by this event, by this circumstance. And the resistance to that very admission brings it about again and again and again. But the more it occurs, it would be, as you call it, clever, because it never appears the same way twice. And so it's easy to misread an event, to misread an individual. When you are in conversation with someone and you are expressing about your life, do you express the absolute truth as you know it to be? What is there? And when we do this, do we not create an opportunity to be absolutely in control of our own situation? Because we're allowing ourselves, through our love, to make a connection with that individual. But if we feel that we have something to protect, then we will create a menagerie, an illusion. We think the illusion is serving us because it doesn't allow the individual to know what is really there now, because it is sensitive. So in that way, we are backing off from participating in the truth of our life. When we do this, we sacrifice. We sacrifice an opportunity to learn, to grow, to see that after we make this admission, after we make this statement about ourselves, that we move instantly from it. Once we admit that we are in fear, then we create the opportunity to be strong. Then we create the opportunity to understand how that fear serves us, how it allows us to be that which is limited, so as to learn that the true nature and heritage of what we are is that we are not limited. When we have the experiences in life that you call relationships, these relationships allow you to see yourself in the form of the other person. And when we are participating in this manner, we are obligated to be an expression of the truth, at least with this individual, yes? But isn't it true that it is most difficult to be absolutely honest, with absolute integrity in your relationships? Because the cost is so high. But the cost is meaningless when we understand what we gain by admitting to what is and is not there. If we are willing to become the expression of the truth that is within ourselves, then we actually become that truth. We become an expression of it in the world. And other people look at this and say, this is power. This person, when I speak with them, I may not like what they say. I may not agree with what they say. But I know that they're going to tell me exactly what is there. They're not going to tell me something they know that I'm going to like, or something that's going to placate me or patronize me, but rather to create an opportunity to be a mirror of the truth, which is what you are, which is what spirit is. And it always is. But man creates an opportunity to forget this. And in creating this opportunity to forget it, in the same instant, is not the opportunity to remember also available? In life, it is an evolution, yes? And in this evolution, you learn about what you are. But is it not true that man today is concerned with who he is who you are. In the end, it is you who created it that way, just the way it is, just who you are. It is you, yes? And if you don't like the who, what do? You change it. How do you change it? You accept it. And in accepting it, it allows you to see what is there, yes? And once you see what is there, then what you change is relevant. It's meaningful. But if you're not willing to see what is there, then you will only see your expectations, your hopes, your dreams. And no matter how these things will appear to be of service to you, in the end they must fade away because they are not the truth. They do not represent what you are. They represent what you think you should be, what you want to be. In direct participation in life, we create an opportunity to be awake in it. There is, in Indian legends, a responsibility of the warrior is to be awake now and to see exactly what is there, so that if he is going to draw his bow and his arrow, that what he is shooting at is real. Least he wastes his ammunition. Well, in life, the ammunition you have is your ambition, your will, your desire to direct action, to movement, to being responsible for what is and is not there. In this time, there must be more involvement from the people, all of the people, because indeed, if you do not assume it as a group, then you miss the point. Because as a group, you can indeed transform the face of life on this planet. But as an individual, you would be struggling against the tide. And as we see over the past 3,000, 4,000 years, that society has primarily been based, or civilization has primarily been based on individuality and individual achievement. But we find that amidst these great individuals, a sense of ideology that develops around them, and they become like demigods. And the individuals who are not in direct participation with them have a tendency to place themselves outside of the circle. And in this way, they feel they must struggle to get back in. They must struggle to find themselves in that circle. If we can realize that we are all in the same place, in the same circle, if that analogy applies, then we don't have to struggle with it. We don't have to follow anything other than our heart, yes? But we must learn how to read it. We must learn how to know it. And the only way to do this is to be in absolute and direct participation. That means each and every instant in it. Now, to say something such as this is quite easy. But to devote yourself to it requires effort. But if one is willing to be an active conduit and expression of this change which is already underway, then they create an opportunity to remove more of the stress that they have in their life by resisting it. Now, we're not talking here about joining movements or following anything or anyone in particular, but we are talking about your right to be a partner, to share equally in the transformation of your life and ultimately the life of all whom you know. But until we are willing to have this transformation in ourselves, we can't give it away to anyone else, because we won't know nor understand what it is we'll be giving to them. When someone gives you a gift, how many of you like to shake the box? Or feel how heavy it is? Or guess what's in it? In many ways, my friends, you do the same thing with your own spirituality. You believe it's in a box somewhere hidden from you. when it is alive right now. It is you, expressing itself as you. But until you create the opportunity to see you as the soul aspirant, as the soul itself, then you divorce yourself from this energy, from this direct link, as you might call it, to what you term your God. Irrespective of what that God means to you, or in what way you have designed it, created it so that you can have an idea of it. What's important is that we become awake and realize that the moment for a change is now. When we sit and we think about all the things we should be doing in our life, how many times do we actively pursue this thinking into a direct action? All it requires is you being honest with yourself. If you, over the next week's time, were willing to look and call your own bluff when you are playing at this game, then you can discover when and where and how you are fooling yourself, if you are fooling yourself. But you must be willing to go through this process. It's quite simple, but it is very challenging. Ask yourself, in what way have I been unwilling to participate on a feeling level with the way that I truly feel about this individual, this event? It matters not what you choose, but over the course of the next week, once every hour, you are to ask yourself in what way you are directly participating in allowing that to change. We think that you'll find that more often than not, when you start it, you will be quite active and you'll remember to do it, perhaps once every 2 hours. And as the week goes on, it gets worse. You will have a couple of days where you forgot it. It will be the oops, and you'll have all your reasons why you didn't think about it. And in the end, we want you to understand that those reasons why you didn't think about it allows you not to do it. The difference between mowing the grass and thinking about it is great. Because in order to do it, you must put something into action. When you put it into action, this is a direct reflection of your will. Your will is energy in motion. It's that which supports this, all of this. And we can't separate any aspect of this from any other aspect. It must remain the same. When we see this sameness in it, then we allow ourselves to bear witness to the fact it is us. We are the same with it. And the only thing that makes us different is our thoughts about it. So we create another opportunity to participate on other levels of our being, to bring in other tools of what you call your intellect, of your heart, of your soul. Participation is active. Participation is acceptance. Participation is allowing yourself to feel your doubts and still to go ahead and press onward from it, to become one in the same. In life, if we allow ourselves to identify our cause, what we do with our life, with the overall movement of that which is the spirit in all things, then we create an opportunity to become like that spirit. We create an opportunity to remember what we have forgotten. And in life, this is of paramount importance, because this is an aspect of direct participation. Being willing to move on it, to do something about it. In the world, there are many different cycles of activity that are occurring right now. There are major movements happening right now. This which is going on in your Iran and Iraq. They're willing at least now to talk about it. All the direct participation that they've been involving themselves in has been to do what? To prove a point, to defend a position, to be self-righteous, even at the extent of, as you say it, carrying on a war for their God. And there is absolutely no God that would demand that you carry on a war in its cause. But rather, that if you must do so, then understand and see the futility of it, so that you can learn that if a single war occurs, and that behind this, that no other war shall ever occur, because the participants learn that the value in war is that you learn that you don't need it, then you create an opportunity to not show up, to not participate. Then you're in a position of power, are you not? But if it is that you are involved in a situation whereby the impassioned majority has you convinced that you must participate, and that if you do not participate, then you are not whole, you are not complete, you are not American, or you are not communist, or whatever it is, or whatever system you're in, then you feel tempted to allow that which is the message of the heart to drift away in favor of that which is the mind, the intellect, which gives you all your reasons why you should support that. But if you were in direct participation, then you would have to stand and say no, because my heart says no. But what would governments say to you? They would say, fine, you give your heart to God, but everything else belongs to us. So in the end, what choice have you? It appears as though you have none, yes? But you have absolute choice. You always have. But to utilize that choice, we must become active, tuning in so as to become aware of what is actually occurring in the world today. And that is the days of separatism, individuality, are going through a metamorphosis. Individuality doesn't end. Separation doesn't end. But the worlds that surround these things begin to become more transparent. So as we begin to understand the nature of their purpose and how that purpose is in direct alignment with our own, because we are one and the same with it. And in the end, we discover our nature. We discover that God nature in ourselves. And that becomes actively involved in the world. And it involves all of you, all that are in the world. Some will choose not to participate in it, and that is their choice. So that shall be that way. Others will choose it. And in choosing it, they create the opportunity to grow beyond their circumstances, to be more powerful than the events that occur in their life, so that they feel as though they're not being pushed around by the energies of life, but actually that they have caused them and brought them about, so they can discover their own strength in that moment. This is the reality of opposites. And we see this reflected throughout all aspects of this life. If we can understand that the nature of spirit is to love and accept all things that are within its dominion, in this case, all things that are in your experience, your reality as you know it, then you create the opportunity to draw that energy closer and closer to you. That which you've been searching for so long. Active participation by spirit through the use of the will. But in order to use the will, we must see it in action at all times, in everything. If we do, then we learn, by bearing witness to it being there for what it is, then we discover the opportunity as to how to become that which manipulates it. Also accept the responsibility of all that is in the world at this time. And it's irrespective of whether the personality itself is in agreement with that understanding. Because it will always attempt to talk itself out of effort, out of direct change that it doesn't believe that it knows intrinsically is going to be for its own good. And this falls in line with what you term to be your need to survive. And the truth of the matter is, your survival is absolutely guaranteed. Because what you are was before you came here. And it will be when you leave. It's absolutely one and the same. If we can create an opportunity, and when we say we, in this sense, we mean all of you, can create an opportunity to allow this frequency, this vibration, this spirit to descend through your accepting it as though you be like a receiver, then you also will get the benefit from this energy, this frequency adjustment. This is somewhat similar to learning a lesson in life. That when one creates an opportunity to want to protect themselves, because they believe that all that is in the world is after them, wants their money, wants their love, whatever it is, everything wants from them, then they will automatically protect themselves from anything and everyone, because they know that this is your intention. Whether or not it is irrelevant, because it's their reality and not yours. And then one day, they deal with that tension, they deal with that opportunity, and they refuse to be manipulated by the circumstances, by you, for whatever the considerations might be. And in that instant, they realize that their resistance to that doesn't hurt. And they create an opportunity to allow it to be, and thus see it differently. Whereas previously there was nothing about the circumstance or the individual that they could see on the surface, until they themselves changed, as though to change the channel on your television set. You will see the same program if you're watching the same station at the same time, yes? But when you change the channel, you will see another one. And it's entirely up to you. It's your choice, yes? If we are willing to become participants in that which is the natural evolution of both this planet, your solar system, your universe, then we create an opportunity to see the oneness of all things, to see the expression of the one in all things. And this absolutely includes you. And it is a most powerful and loving experience when one allows themselves to become responsible. But responsibility is useless unless the will comes into play in the form of direct action. Again, we are forced to move, to make movement in life, the fruit of being. But if we have convinced ourselves that we do not have the power, nor the right, nor the tools to be effective, then it would be far easier for us to sit in the living room and simply complain. But if we can see that we are indeed that which is the cause for our own experience of what is and is not in our life, then we create through direct participation in changing it. You don't have to know what it is you're changing. You don't have to know the technology, because there isn't any. All you have to know is your willingness to go about the business of allowing it to be that way for you. To be like unto a receiver. And when you receive it, then you transmit it. But you must transmit it with as little interference as is possible. The interference in this case would be relative to your beliefs and your past experience, because you have a tendency to judge yourself from these positions, that which is past, and you see the effect of it now. And in many cases, individuals are victims of that which is the future, because they have put into the future from their expectations and their fears that which they know without a doubt has to occur. But what happens when it doesn't? Then we create an opportunity to realize that we were involved in that choice, that we, in fact, created the opportunity for that to come about. And it is simple. There's not much that you have to do other than to allow yourself to accept the fact that you do have a responsibility and a role to play. Because indeed this is a kingdom in which spirits play. They create realities and then inhabit them. But they all too often believe they are the realities they've created. When was the last time you created an opportunity for you to step outside of yourself and see your life from the perspective of someone else? Has it been recently? In fact, it has. Because whenever you're talking to other people about you, that's the perspective you're getting. But what happens when someone tells you about something about you and you say that's not so? And you end up defending yourself, arguing about that position. Do you ever find yourself doing this? Do you ever notice that when you do this, you get to keep it that way? Nothing changes? Because you have just reinserted your will. You've just expressed that you're going to be right whether you are or not. And you're going to become that. You're going to become your own judgment. There is nothing wrong with the world. It is perfect. If we can see where it's headed, then we can allow it to go that way. Otherwise, we're going to look at the machine and make the statement the machine is broken. But the machine is not broken. It works flawlessly. It is the individuals who are in fact the cogs, the wheels in that machinery, that need to recognize their role in it. All that occurs to you as individuals, whether it be by yourself singly or in mass as a group, is reflected in your planet. It is going through similar changes. But you have difficulty in associating yourself with this planet soul called Earth. It is simply, as we might call it, a gestalt. We're being profoundly simple. But if we can view it as though it were a gestalt, and that, first of all, at the point of this gestalt is that which you call the idea of God. And from that point, all other things begin to manifest. And then in their manifestation, and depending upon the power of the will of its original cause, will determine as to what level this will manifest in the same way as your vapors, as they rise from your seas, will rise to specific levels before they start to condense. So here we have a physical example. And yet, when we look at the clouds, do we see them in this way? Can we look at the global changes that are happening on the planet itself? Can we look at this as is relative to the human body, to the evolution of the human body itself? Everything admits to the same changes. Everything does. But it expresses them through its own form. And therein lies the difference. The form that it takes. But the form that it takes is self-created. In unison with the perceiver and the cause. Creating it simultaneously. But then bearing witness to it in reflection. Thinking about it after the fact. How many times have you heard yourself saying, if I knew better, I wouldn't have done it this way? The truth of the matter is that you did know better, but you simply chose it that way. You weren't aware of the options, because in that moment of now, when you made that decision, you were convinced that you were right. And in life, isn't it important to be right? And when one is right, are they powerful? Is it right, all that is in the world today, or is it just what it is? And we have an opportunity to take that and change it. But first, don't we have to associate what does it reflect in me? Why am I reacting to it? Why do I have this feeling, this sensation about it in the first place, if it's not related to me? The truth is, it is related to you. And whether you understand it on a conscious level or an unconscious level is what's of importance here. Taking that which is heretofore unconscious, in that realm which is forgetfulness, and bringing it into the realm of consciousness so that you can see it. But when we say see it, we don't mean with eyes. We mean with awareness, in the same way that your body, in its way, sees and feels through its own awareness. For it is through this expression that we find the same equivalence in nature. The world goes through changes as a planet, and as you did when you were passing through the various stages of your development as individuals. And as a race, the human race. You see the trials and tribulations of this race and the challenges in which it has faced. And you find out that 5,000 years since the beginning of your recorded history, that man has attempted to establish a primary thing. And that primary thing is his right to be the top. He is at the top of nature, so he sees himself. And in so doing, he separates himself from that which is the ladder upon which he climbs. And that is a very dangerous proposition. If you're going to climb up the ladder, you best stay on it. If we allow ourselves the opportunity to actively take a look at what is in our life, then we can create the opportunity to choose or not choose. And when we not choose, we are simply saying that this, which was of service to me previously, no longer serves me, because it is more a reflection of my limitation than my expansion. And you are constantly expanding. Just as it is reflected in your universe, it is constantly expanding. And yet, when we look at that which is your physics and talks about times of the beginning, we say that in the beginning there was nothing, and then there was the Big Bang. And from that point, all things began to expand outward. And to a degree, this is acceptable to the mind. But it is not a direct reflection of spirit, save only in its nature to constantly expand. Because you understand through your physics that expansion in no way can be proven to be eternal, to continue to go outward and outward, because they can find all the proof and the reasons they want to say that eventually it must collapse on itself, and just look at all that is around you and you will see examples of this. But what we say is the game. It's not an inward-outward game. Because again, you're using physical understanding to interpret spiritual awareness. And you can't use these tools this way because you ultimately will limit them. It is like saying that life is like a movie. No, life is not like a movie. You go to a movie, what do you see? The movie is projected on a screen, yes? And you see movement, but is there a movement? No. But you're willing to perceive it that way and accept it that way. If we begin to participate directly now, then we will see that life is an experience that flows through you, not you through it. But that, as you might term it, is what one might call a rather awkward lesson to learn. That in the end, when we find out that all this motion, all this movement absolutely never occurred, how absurd a statement. And yet, it is like unto an understanding of all that is God itself. Where would that thing that holds all things, where does it move? Where can it go? Again, we are stuck using principles of physical existence which mirror spirituality, but are not spirituality. And it is we, the individual receivers, who create that realization. And we create it unto ourselves. And then we realize, indeed, that that which is the God, however you want to define it, describe it, place it in its realm of being, is in all things. And in fact, supports all things, being what they are. And what they are not. This means you too. All that is God is not absent from your life, is it? Although at times you may think so, because when you become entrenched in your circumstances and you pray to God, or you go into your meditation hoping to get answers. But the truth of the matter is that the answers don't always come. And the answer to that is because oftentimes the questions which are asked are inappropriate. They're not wrong. They're not bad. They're not incorrect. Simply misapplied. If one knows through being that that which is the God force is in all things, then they can utilize this in their daily life. Not just in something that's performed during a ritual, or during a meditation, or when you go to a particular event. It is that which must become an aspect of your everyday existence. But before that can happen, we, in an abstract sense, must be willing to give up all those things that we have attached and claimed possession of, so that we can know that in letting them go, we have them, because they represent qualities of our spiritual nature. And these qualities can't be taken away from you, but you can ignore them in yourself. And when you do, then you become manipulated by your own creation. And if this is going to change, if we are going to create an opportunity for the transformation of life on this planet, it must first happen within the individuals. When this takes place, then the more individuals who, as it is termed, come awake, then the energy can be expressed through them in the form of groups. And when one joins with the group, one does not lose one's individuality. When one joins with the circumstances of their life, you will not become lost in them. They will not overwhelm you as badly as you think they will. For indeed, it is true that the individual has within it the group, and the group has within it the individual. But when the individual allows for the group, there is so much more awareness there to express and funnel through it as an individual. And it works both ways. For is it true? Does a violin get lost in an orchestra? Does a violin give up its integrity to produce the sounds it produces, to join in the orchestra? No. It is a harmony, a blending of all of these tones of being that must be tolerated, that must be accepted. You see a diversity in the world. It's like people arguing who's going to play the first violin. And is this one more talented than this one? It doesn't matter. Individuality is not lost in group nature, and group nature doesn't swallow up individuality. All it is, God is not waiting to absorb you like you were a spot on the floor. It is, in fact, in love with you. It is you. And the truth of the matter is, that which you call the energy of God wouldn't do anything unto itself that would be, in the end, self-defeating, now would it? No matter how intensely intelligent you might think God is, God has nothing to do with intelligence. So why is it so important for you to have your knowledge rather than to have that which is your joy of being? To be in that point of power which is now. And from that position, creating an opportunity to change the world in you. And when this occurs again, amongst the group, they would be like unto beacons of light, shining unto those who would be willing and able to offer their assistance. For it is said that when the student is ready, the master shows up. All you have to do is realize that the masters are in the world. The students are ready. Let us create an opportunity to transform the quality of our individual lives, and this ultimately will reflect the planetary life. So let us join that which is our nature, as opposed to resisting it. Now at this time, what we're going to do is allow Thomas to return to you, and we'll take a short break.